comes the sun, here comes the sun. I say it's alright. Little darling, it's been a long, cold, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun. I say it's alright. Little darling, the smile's returning to the faces. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Sun, 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 here it comes. 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 Little darling, I feel that ice is slowly melting. Little darling, it seems like years since it's been clear. But here comes the sun, here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Here comes the sun, here comes the sun, it's alright. It's alright.
What a beautiful song to start the proceedings today. Today we wish to show our respects and acknowledgement of the Darkinjon people, who are the traditional custodians of the land in which we celebrate. This celebration takes place today, and to elders past and present. And welcome to each and every one of you. Today we're here to celebrate the life of Marlene Joy Armstrong. And on behalf of Jimmy, Shane, Leanne, and all of Marlene's family, I wish to sincerely thank you for coming here today to participate in this celebration to honour Marlene's memory. And to those who are live streaming, we welcome you too. I know that there are quite a few family members that wish to be here but are unable to travel, so we welcome you and we feel your love and we thank you for joining us. Today a funeral is not a day in your life, but we are celebrating the life of Marlene in one day. There are many joyful memories of this wonderful woman, and to celebrate Marlene's life is a very, very fitting tribute. She was a wonderful woman who was strong, a staunch defender of the underdog, and one who could chat to anyone, was always up to mischief. So please, let's do Marlene proud. We do, however, come here with mixed emotions, mourning the loss of Marlene and remembering the life that you have all shared with her. You've all come here to support each other as you pause to remember a very special woman in your life. So today is really a time of coming to say your final goodbyes to Marlene and to remember what she meant to you personally. And I know that each of you have, in some way, played a part in Marlene's life. So this celebration for Marlene is for her, but it's also for each of you and you at home as we gather together to share this time with each other. Death in a number of ways unites us all, and Marlene's death for a time demands that each one of us put aside our toil, our cares and our pleasures to unite ourselves with each one here who share in the common bond of love and friendship for Marlene. It is at a time like this that we stop the onrush of life and we pause for a little while and reflect. When we think about Marlene's life, there is a lot to reflect upon. The way Marlene lived her life is a clear message to pass on to you all to live a fuller and more meaningful life of your own. And because you all loved and respected her, her passing causes us to get our own set of values into the true perspective. We know for certain that we never lose the people that we love even to death. Marlene's life leaves an indelible imprint in your hearts and in your memories. And we find comfort in knowing that our lives have been enriched by sharing Marlene's love and her life. Friends, I've been invited to share a little bit about Marlene on behalf of the family, and Leanne, thank you very much for sharing those with me. Marlene Joy Armstrong was born on the 4th of February 1943 in the family home in Blackrock to parents Rose and Robert. She was the youngest living child. Her family was rounded off with her older siblings, Bobby, Ronnie, Lorraine, Freddie, Reggie and Pauline. And Marlene did have a younger sister, Elma, but sadly she passed at 2 weeks of age. With Marlene's mum passing when she was 7, Marlene and her sister Pauline grew up in an orphanage, and understandably they were very close throughout their lives. Marlene's first job was at Darrell Lee's, and when moving to Sydney she obtained her licence, bought a Vespa, and then progressed on to driving her first car. Marlene ventured to New Zealand to live, and that was a big adventure, as she didn't know anyone over there, so pretty strong woman to do that. Moving back to Sydney, Marlene became one of the very first lady bus drivers, and I know Leanne's going to touch on that too. Marlene married and took on the care of Jimmy, who was then 3 years old. The family grew with the birth of Leanne and Shane, and she was a great mum, and Leanne will share that too. Throughout her life, Marlene had various jobs, including waitressing and factory work. And after her divorce, Marlene commenced training as a nurse's aide and worked in aged care until she injured her knee. And then she progressed on to working in the disability area. Marlene was described to me as a doting grandmother. And on retirement, she enjoyed time with her friends, travel, singing in a concert group, entertaining in aged care. Friends, I know that you would all agree that Marlene has earned the love and the respect of not only her family, but all of those who surround her, and we know that she will be very, very sadly missed. You must all have your own special memories of Marlene, and I'd like to invite Jimmy and then Shane and Leanne to share their memories.
Hello everyone, thank you very much for coming. Thank you for that was beautiful. I don't know, it's hard. I've had plenty of time to write something, but there was just too many bullet points, not enough paper, and too much of a life to try to fit on a sheet of paper. But I think we all hear the words, and we use the words of love and respect. But those words were more an action than words that are just simply thrown around with Marlene. As most of you would know, Marlene took me on. Marlene wasn't my actual mother, she was my auntie. But she took me on with Ken to raise me from the age of 3. Marlene has been the only mother I've ever known, although my mother was alive and never lived far away, but Marlene was my mother. And things from, my early years, as young as 4, 5, I remember getting, dragged out of bed at 3 o'clock in the morning and, all the clothes thrown on you, jumped into a car, up onto a train, down to Sydney to drive buses all day, down to Randwick. She went to every sporting event, took on all the clothes and washed all the clothes and hung them out over the weekends, and, she did everything that any mother would do for any child. But the love and respect I'm talking about is that this woman never wavered, ever. You hear people that take kids on and they, get them out of bloody, they take them on as orphans and all that stuff. Marlene, they never got any money for doing it. Everything they did was out of love. Everything they did was out of their own pocket. And they never wavered. They never, when the times got tough or got too hard or I was being a real prick of a kid, they never threw me back in the box and said, well, we don't want to know you anymore. We don't want to put up with that shit. We'll get another one or whatever. They stuck it out through thick and thin. So I don't think I can explain the amount of love and respect I have for her, for everything she's done for me through my entire life. Thank you.
Well said, Jim. Again, what Jim said, thank you very much for everyone that's turned up. Yes, pondering over this over the last week, what to say. I suppose it'll all come out in stories later. It's not something I'm going to dwell on now. But only one thing I can say is thank God that I converted her from Collingwood to Sydney Swans. But yes, the love of her life, Tony Shaw from the Collingwood. But yes, she was a bit of a character. And as I said, at the sports, I always knew Mum was on the sideline because some big kid was picking on me. And she's almost running onto the field. But yeah, look, fond memories, and I'm sure if we go and have a drink later, we'll share all the memories. And yeah, anyway, last words for Mum is thank you and I love you.
Thanks, boys. That was, yeah, she would have loved that. The boys are always the apple of her eyes. Today I've got a letter from Auntie Pauline. Hi, Auntie Pauline. I know you wish you could have been here, but I know you're participating in the live stream. And thank you for sending the letter and photos. So this is, first up is a little letter that Auntie Pauline sent to me by registered post, by the way. Didn't come until Friday. I was a bit nervous there in the end. Today I'm going to try and tell you a little about my sister. We did everything together. Marlene and I went on a few cruises, which were great times. Marlene was younger than me, but trust me, she was in charge. And everything was always under control. We used to go dancing 4 nights a week in the VRI ballroom, where I met Jock and got married. Marlene stayed with us until I got pregnant and decided it was time to take control of her life. And then she left for the next episode of her life, which was hopping on a cargo ship as one of the only females on board that ship in her lovely crisp blue suit, and headed off to New Zealand, where she lived for a little while. Then when she got back, she stayed again with Auntie Pauline and Uncle Jock. Jock got sent back to Melbourne and Marlene decided to stay in Sydney, where she met Ken, and the rest is history. Marlene had 2 children, Leanne and Shane. She brought them up as a single mum and did a great job too. Farewell, sis. You'll always be in my heart. Rest in peace, sis. Pauline. Thanks, Pauline. I know she really loved her phone calls with you, even though in the end she didn't say much, but her face would always light up when she'd hear you on the other end saying, "G'day, sis." Now, I wanted to speak last today. I'm the only girl with 2 brothers. I like to have the last say. Pretty sure I get that from Mum. So Mum had a rock-hard exterior. It was developed through years of trauma, but once you got past her armour, you found an extremely soft centre and a golden heart. She was always the carer, whether you needed it or not. She was fiercely protective of her children and grandchildren. She loved to be a nan, and her face always lit up when she saw them. Mum and her siblings had a pretty tough childhood. Their mum passed away when Mum was around 7, and after being cared for by family for a while, Mum and Auntie Pauline were put on a train with a letter and sent to the orphanage. Uncle Reggie, who was not much older than them, was sent to escort them, and in true Uncle Reggie style, he got off the train at Essendon to watch a football match. So they got off the train at their right stop. They asked the adults for directions, and they found their way to the orphanage. I can't imagine how scary that must have been, knocking on that big door. It must have looked like a big mansion. I'd love sitting there listening to the stories that Mum and Auntie Pauline would tell. They'd be in absolute hysterics just recalling the things that they used to get up to. So as the story goes, Auntie Pauline was the well-behaved child, she was the angelic one, and Mum was the wild child. So the nuns, apparently, they dished up all the punishment they could muster, but they never broke Mum's spirit. So it was a Catholic orphanage, and back in the day, Mum and Auntie Pauline, they were Protestant, and so back in the day it was quite segregated, so the Protestants and Catholics were never to cross over, and Mum didn't like being told she couldn't do something or she wasn't allowed to do something. It was a bit like a red rag to a bull. So one particular day, curiosity got the better of her, and she decided she was going to go on into that Catholic church with the Catholic kids. Poor Auntie Pauline was left outside, beside herself. About 5 minutes later, as you expect, the nun dragged Mum out by the ear and started to berate her. Auntie Pauline thought, oh, here we go, she's done for. Mum just looked at her, batted her eyelids and said, oh, but sister, I just want to be a nun like you. And with that, she got away with it. Mum couldn't walk past a baby in the street without stopping to fuss over it, and only recently learnt why that was. At some point, the nuns gave Mum the responsibility of looking after all the babies and the small children in the orphanage. I'm pretty sure this was because they'd worked out that punishment wasn't really working, and also that Auntie Pauline had to leave the orphanage at 14 because it was time to get a job and move out. So Mum, this was a perfect job for Mum. She used to get up extra early every morning, check the beds, make sure any of the kids hadn't wet the bed, and if they had, she'd get them up, change the sheets, hide the evidence, and all would be done and dusted before the nuns could come back in. She said the nuns are really cruel, and she did whatever she could to protect those little ones. The other story that comes to mind is one night Auntie Pauline and Mum were out dancing, or probably on a double date as they used to do. They were walked home by their gentleman friends and had a little kiss goodnight at the door. Now, the fella that gave Mum a kiss, his hands were wandering a bit more than they should have been. Mum wasn't happy about it, so she stepped back, put her hand down under her top, pulled out the padding out of her bra, which she probably would have called her falsies, handed it to him and said, here, take this, and be on your way if you like him that much. So Mum was a feminist. I don't think she would have used that term, but she always believed that women could do anything that men could do, and they'd probably do it better. She was really proud of being one of the first female bus drivers in Sydney. I can't imagine it would have been easy. There are no power steering, and she blames that for her rather large arms in later life. When she was in hospital recently, she was telling one of the other patients about how she got one of the double-decker buses wedged under a bridge in the eastern suburbs of Sydney. And I looked at her and I said, well, what did you do? How did they get it out? And she goes, oh, I just kept driving, and I can see her there, sitting there cool as a cucumber, not batting an eyelid and just driving as if nothing had ever happened. As the boys said, Mum was totally involved with us kids. She was always there. She never missed a sporting event. She always had a car full of kids taking them to sport with us. She drove the buses for marching girls, she coached my netball team, and she sat at AFL all day watching every single game. I think it was 5 games, like Shane said. He'd probably play in 3 of them, and I can guarantee he only ever got roughed up once a game. Mum was also extremely competitive, as you know, I'm sure. Riley, it's not just your red hair you get off, Nan. One day when we were about 15, we went on a ski trip, and Mum, being the good sportswoman, picked up the skiing really good, and I can guarantee she was trying to outdo us when she came to grief out on the slopes. She somehow managed to take out a photographer and the entire family he was photographing. So Mum was fiercely protective of us. She didn't seem to be scared of anything or anyone. So when we were probably in my early 20s, we lived in a duplex, and next door to us we had a young 16-year-old who was quite a naughty boy. One particular night he decided to steal my car, which was parked under Mum's window. So Mum heard it, yelled out at him, came and got me. And I thought, all right, well, I'm a copper, it's my turn to be the protector. Told Mum to stay inside. That was my first mistake. So I went outside, I heard the next door shut. I thought, I'll just go knock on the door and I'll let his mum know what he's been up to. So I go over, knock on the door. Mum answers, the young fella's hiding behind the corner. And just as I was about to speak, I somehow end up pushed up against the fly screen, and I can see a metal bar in the corner of my eye. And I thought, I've misread this situation, haven't I? Then I heard Mum. It was Mum, in her shorty nightie, with my softball bat, telling him exactly where she was going to shove that bat if he ever tried to steal her daughter's car again. So Mum had a big family. Hello to you all down in Victoria who are watching on the live stream. Thank you for coming. It was a really long drive, so really grateful. She loved her family, but distance and other factors meant they weren't always together as often as she would have liked. Auntie Pauline and her were inseparable, as you heard in her letter. Auntie Pauline told me that they used to do a little act to the song called Sisters by the Clooney Sisters. We've actually got that song on the photo. So, and every time I hear it now, I can just visualise Mum and Auntie Pauline doing this little double act. Mum also adored her big brother, Uncle Ronnie. He was her protector, the safe haven Mum could turn to when needed, and she was always very grateful for that. So I'd like to end today with some lessons that Mum instilled in us kids. Always use your manners. It doesn't cost anything to be polite. Always back the underdog. If you believe in something, stand up for it, no matter how scary it might be. Take every opportunity that comes your way and make sure you grab it with both hands. Always work hard and always do your best. Do unto others as you would like done to yourself. And last of all, be good, and if you can't be good, be careful.
Jimmy, Shane and Leanne, what wonderful memories that you've shared with us today. And I have no doubt that you'll be able to share more memories when you get to the refreshments afterwards. But what a mum, what a crusader. She was brilliant. And you're all very, very fortunate to have been a part of her life, I'm sure. As I said, you must all have your own special memories of Marlene, so please allow this to be an opportunity to remind yourselves the wonderful times that you've shared with her that puts a big smile in your heart. And throughout this, you are all very much invited to sing along with the songs.
Wherever you go, wherever you may wander in your life, surely you know I'll always want to be there, holding your hand to be there. Whenever you feel you need a friend to lean on, here I am. Whenever you call, you know I'll be there. Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right. Let me take you through that wonderland that only two can share. All I ask you is let me be there. Let me be there in your morning. Let me be there in your night. Let me change whatever's wrong and make it right. Let me take you through that wonderland that only two can share. All I ask you is let me be there. All I ask you is let me be there.
Sisters, sisters, there were never such devoted sisters. Never had to have a chaperone, no sir. I'm here to keep my eye on her, caring, sharing every little thing that we are wearing. When a certain gentleman arrived from Rome, she wore the dress and I stayed home. All kinds of weather, we stick together, the same in the rain or sun. Two different faces, but in tight places, we think and we act as one. Those who seen us know that not a thing can come between us. Many men have tried to split us up, but no one can. Lord help a mister who comes between me and my sister. And Lord help the sister that comes between me and my man.
Well, what a kaleidoscope of memories that is. And Auntie Pauline, I'm sure that you'd be pleased to see those photos too. Fabulous. And as Jimmy said, a lot of love and respect. I'd like to invite you all now to share a flower of remembrance with Marlene at this time.
Pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Quiet thoughts come floating down and settle softly to the ground like gold of autumn leaves around my feet. I touch them and they burst apart with sweet memories. Sweet memories of holding hands and red bouquets and twilight lights trimmed in purple haze, and laughing eyes and simple ways, and quiet nights and gentle days with you. Memories pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Memories, memories of holding hands and red bouquets, and twilights trimmed in purple haze, and laughing eyes and simple ways, and quiet nights and gentle days with you. Memories pressed between the pages of my mind. Memories sweetened through the ages just like wine. Memories, memories, sweet memories, memories.
Beautiful white flower roses there, and we shared those ones there for the people who are live streaming who couldn't come today. Friends, there's grief and hurt because you've lost this very special woman. Please remember that the pain is in your hearts because Marlene's touched your hearts, and for that you're privileged. Pain in your heart can be lightened a little, knowing that Marlene is now reunited with Mum Rosie, Uncle Ronnie, Auntie Lorraine, Uncle Reggie, an extended family, as well as all of her friends. Some people say the measure of a successful life is whether or not you can say at the end of it that I've made a difference. There's certainly no doubt here. Marlene Joy Armstrong. She was a mother, a grandmother, a sister, and a friend to so many. And she made a huge difference. Friends, it is a comfort to all of Marlene's family to know that they are surrounded by so much love and respect for Marlene today. An invitation is extended to each and every one of you to share time for refreshments after our celebration here, and this will be held at the Arimba Lisarow RSL Club. And I have no doubt that you'll be sharing some really good memories and hopefully a few smiles and laughs as well. Friends, a verse has been chosen to share with you today which depicts the love and the respect that you all have for Marlene, and they could be the words that she'd be saying to each of you. You can shed tears that Marlene is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and pray that she'll come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be happy for tomorrow and let it live on. You can cry and close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you could do what Marlene would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. Friends, for all that are able, would you please stand for our farewell for Marlene? Would you please share with me in saying the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Friends, we've reached the time of our farewell for Marlene, and tenderly and lovingly we commit the body of Marlene Joy Armstrong to nature's keeping. We give thanks for Marlene's life, and we remember with deep gratitude her love of family and of life itself. We're grateful for the life that has been lived and for all that Marlene's life has meant to each of us. We're glad that we saw Marlene smile and felt the love in her heart. We cherish the memory of Marlene's words, her deeds and her character. We cherish Marlene's friendship, but most of all, her love. And Marlene's memory will remain in your hearts forever. Friends, please leave our celebration for Marlene today with happy hearts and happy memories, as we all know that Marlene wouldn't want you to leave here with sadness today. Just joy in her memory. And a very suitable song to finish.
I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend, 'cause I've heard it all before, and I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. Oh yes, I'm wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman. You can bend but never break me, 'cause it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice any longer, 'cause you've deepened the conviction in my soul. Oh yes, I am wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman. I am woman, watch me grow, see me standing toe to toe, as I spread my loving arms across the land. But I'm still an embryo, with a long, long way to go, until I'll make my brother understand. Oh yes, I am wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can face anything. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman. I am woman, hear me roar, in numbers too big to ignore, and I know too much to go back and pretend, 'cause I've heard it all before, and I've been down there on the floor. No one's ever gonna keep me down again. Yes, I'm wise, but it's wisdom for the pain. Yes, I paid the price, but look how much I gained. If I have to, I can do anything. I am strong, I am invincible, I am woman. You can bend but never break me, 'cause it only serves to make me more determined to achieve my final goal. And I come back even stronger, not a novice